Winter is coming, and there is no justice in the world but what we make. Hi, Sparrow. This is an interesting episode, and it's one I liked quite a bit. Now, we are kind of running into what I've said the last couple of episodes, which is that not a ton of really active stuff happens, but new wheels are turning in addition to things moving forward on stuff that had gotten going already. So there's still a good feeling of forward momentum, even though there isn't a ton of boom impactful stuff actually going on. So while it's not quite as forcefully moving ahead as season 4 was, we're not in quite the holding pattern problem that the start of season 3 was. I suppose we can start at King's Landing, where we actually have another wedding. Now, the show treats it very much like a shotgun wedding, in, vows out, done, and moves on very quickly, which is good given the show's track record with weddings. And the power dynamic continues to shift at King's Landing, and we get to spend a bit more time with Tommen than I think we ever have up to this point. Tommen himself continues to be a bit of a non-entity. There isn't a lot to him, but I am still liking his stuff because we get to see Marjorie do what she does best, which is to manipulate someone into doing what she wants so well that they think it's their own idea. I mean, she is just so good at this. I do not get tired of seeing it happen. Cersei continues to appear to be losing her support structure and does not seem to have a lot of friends left. And I'm going to be interested to see what length she's going to be prepared to go to the more she gets backed into a corner. Because I remember Jaime really grew on me in a character when he got backed into a corner, mainly back in season 3. So I'm going to be interested to see what she will now do. We also get a bit of a better look at the Sparrows, which it comes back to that character who I talked about before, who came back and, a whole new look. So we've got sort of this surge, another religious group, very back to basics, very simple, only the simplest things in life. And we meet the High Sparrow, played by Jonathan Pryce, who I am loving. Because Jonathan Pryce is a very affable actor. You sort of immediately kind of warm to him. You like him. He just seems nice, but I can already see sort of the strands and the mentality about this guy that's going to make him a problem for certain characters. And I'm immediately intrigued by him. Not so much that he's overly deep or hard to read, but just how a character like that being inserted into this world, particularly in King's Landing of all places, how that's going to disrupt a lot of stuff. We get kind of an extended scene with Brienne of Tarth and Podrick, and I'm loving the pairing of them more and more the more time we spend with them. I mean, it was kind of a nice odd couple pairing right off the bat, but it's just deepening and it's becoming more enjoyable to watch. And Brienne of Tarth has a great sort of monologue speech that she gives that just gives great, terrific insight into her character, into her history, and it does what this show does very well, which is to encapsulate so much of a character into a story about their own past, and not just about what happens, but the way that they tell it. We touch base at Winterfell for the first time in a long time. Of course, now it's under control of the Boltons. Roose and Ramsay, which means Reek, formerly Theon Greyjoy, is kicking around as well. Now, Theon, I'm still going to call him that. Theon, I'm really going to be interested in, because being back in Winterfell, you're starting to see like little glimmers of maybe there's still something of who he used to be somewhere in the back under this completely beaten down animal that he is at this point. And I'll be curious to see how and if that pays off. Sansa, kind of running neutral for me again. She has some moments in terms of how she behaves that I'm kind of like, that's a little bit like the Sansa that I got very tired of. But as has happened before, she is continuing to be put in very interesting situations, and I just want those interesting situations to seep in and inform the character a little bit more than they have in the past. Up at the Wall, we spend a bit of time there. Not much really happens, and not much that you couldn't have guessed coming off the last episode anyway. It works fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but no surprises with what's going on up there. The wheels are spinning and it's moving forward. It's just I know exactly where it's going, so it feels like it's not going anywhere. I suppose the one other thing that felt a little bit like it was just, okay, can we get somewhere with this, was with Varys and Tyrion, because they've just been traveling and they're continuing to travel, and it's like, yeah, could you get somewhere? Could something happen? Well, thankfully something does actually happen, but I'm glad too, because I was really starting to be like, oh, please don't make me annoyed with Tyrion and Varys. Thankfully, we hit a nice sort of ending moment with that I'll be interested to see how that plays out as well. So this wasn't necessarily an episode that got me pumped pumped for too much, but there's a lot that I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of potential in what happened here. And I don't even want to say groundwork, because there is forward momentum on a number of plot points. It's still all setup, but it's all interesting setup. Oh, the one thing I forgot to talk about is Arya in the House of Black and White, which has a good feel for it. She's there, she's sort of getting acclimated. It's this mysterious kind of place, training-ish sort of scenario. And I'm okay with that for this episode. I just hope she's not stuck in that for too long. Now, having not read the books, I don't know if this is the case. I feel like the people behind the show were really kind of in a tough place with this season, because what it feels like is they had to pull material from a book where not a lot happens, and a lot of stuff just gets prepped for what'll happen later, but they have to still find a way to make that interesting. If that is the case, they're actually doing quite a good job, because I'm not bored. I'm interested in what's going on. It's just, I am sort of getting to that point like, cool, this is all good setup. Some of the things being set up need to start actually happening soon. That would be good. Oh, one last complete side note. We get a glimpse, just one scene, very glimpse of a red priestess, which I think is basically the same thing that Lady Melisandre is, and played by this actress, whose name I'm not going to try and say because I'm going to butcher it, but I spotted her, recognized her immediately because she was one of my favorite things about the movie The Wolverine, and I hope to God she comes back. Is there sort of a character who was seen briefly, who we haven't seen for a long time, or was a toss-away character, who you would like to see come back, who potentially could, who isn't dead? If there's any character like that for you, why don't you drop something down in the comments and we'll talk about it. And until next time, this council is adjourned.